Hey everyone! If you have been following the channel for a while, you know that I am training for Ironman Chattanooga, but today I'm going to take a break from the training updates and share a spectating video. So last year, Caleb did his first Ironman. He did Ironman Chattanooga, and the kids and I went to spectate and cheer him on, and really my main goals were I wanted to be able to see him as much as possible, and I just wanted to keep the kids happy and avoid meltdowns. So I'm happy to say that we had a really successful weekend. Everybody had a great time, and I just wanted to share what worked for us because I spent a lot of time researching. I talked with some friends who had been there before to spectate and cheer on, and just spent a lot of time researching and coming up with a good solid game plan. And I just wanted to share that to any other people who are planning on spectating and want to see their person as many times as possible out on the course. So whether you yourself are the one who is doing Ironman Chattanooga or you are there to cheer someone on, I hope you will find this video helpful. And if you have kids especially, stick around to the very end. I'm gonna share some tips of some things that were really helpful having our two kids who were 4 and 6 at the time, as well as just some other things that we did throughout the weekend that were a lot of fun for them. So first up, just to kind of get your bearings, I'm gonna show you on the map. I just love maps and love kind of getting an idea of where everything is. So this is the river, and this is the downtown Chattanooga area. So right here, this is the green, and this is where all the tents will be set up, where they will have check-in, and they have a lot of different tents set up with different things, like some local bike shops had some tents set up. So this is like Grand Central Station for registration. Then down here is where they will have the athlete briefings. This is Ross's Landing. You'll hear that mentioned a lot. That's just this area down here, this green space by the river. And then over here, this giant parking lot is where all of the bikes will be set up. This will be where they'll have the transition area. For the swim start was at 7:30 a.m. And the kids and I decided to not go to the swim start, and we decided this for a couple of reasons. Number one was the swim start is 2 miles up the river, and we did not want to take a bus or walk the 2 miles upriver. The second reason is a small area, and from what I gathered, we weren't really going to be able to spend that much time with him. And then we also wanted to make sure that we were there at the swim exit when he got out of the water. That was more important to us. We wanted to see him get out of the water and then start out on the bike. And then lastly, we really just needed to get as much sleep as we possibly could because we knew it was going to be a really long day. So we did not go to the swim start. Instead, what we did is we headed up to Walnut Street Bridge, and I will go back to this spot often. So it's just a short walk up here, not that far away from the transition area and the swim exit and everything. This is called Walnut Street Bridge, and this is a pedestrian bridge. And what the kids and I did instead is we walked out here on this bridge, and we kind of got out, not quite halfway, but I'm almost gonna get emotional just talking about it because it was such a cool moment. So we got there, I think about 7:45. I looked at the timestamps on my pictures from last year, and it was right about 7:45, 7:50. And the swim started at 7:30, so I knew Caleb wasn't gonna be one of the very first ones. You know, they self-seed, and I knew he was gonna start a little bit later. But we got out there on this bridge, and there were a lot of other people standing there, and the sun was coming up. So I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional because it was just such a cool moment. So the sun was coming up, and we're all just standing there, and it's just beautiful. And then all of a sudden, somebody says, "Here they come," and you could kind of just see like these little ripples in the water. And obviously the water support people are out there on their paddle boards and kayaks, but you could just see the ripples in the water, and then a few more, and then a few more, and they started coming closer and closer. And so we stood there probably, I think we left there about 8:10. So we stood there a good little while just watching the swimmers coming towards us. And it was such an amazing moment. I could have stood there for a lot longer, but we didn't want to miss Caleb coming out of the water. So Walnut Street Bridge is a really cool moment. Great, just kind of calm before the storm, peaceful, exciting way to start the day. So after that moment on the bridge, we walked back down the same way that I just showed. We come down First Street and here through this area across the aquarium and then over here. Now this is where I will show pictures and it'll make a little bit more sense. As you come down here, there's this ramp. They're gonna come out of the water up here. And there's lots of people standing along here watching. So they're gonna come up out of the water and there's this ramp. And so what we did is the athletes are coming up the ramp here and they're coming over here to this parking lot to get their bikes. So you can cross here, but you have to wait until there's nobody coming up through here out of the water. So what we did instead, and this is a tip that my friend Jeremy gave me, shout out to Jeremy, is we went over here and there's this ramp and you can actually crawl under the ramp. And so what we did was the kids and I crawled under the ramp and we kind of just waited on this grassy hill area right here until we saw him come out of the water. And that was a great spot. There was room. And we saw him come out of the water. The wetsuit strippers were over here. He got his wetsuit off and I was right there, right next to the ramp. And so we had a moment where we connected eyes and he was really happy with his swim time. His swim time was a lot faster than we were expecting to be because of the current. So hopefully it'll be that way again in 2024. Fingers crossed that it's an awesome current. So we had that happy moment. Then he went up the ramp across here. And as he was going through transition, we jogged up this hill and went down here, and right under this overpass, under this bridge is where the bike mount area is. So it was a little bit crowded, so we kind of spaced out and came down here a little bit further. And that way we were able to see him get out of the water, but then we also stood right here and were able to cheer him on as he got on the bike and started the bike. So that was really cool because we were on this side over here, we were able to see both. And that was my goal, was I wanted to see Caleb as many times as we possibly could. So after he started out on the bike, we decided to not go see any of the other bike portions until he got off the bike. And the reason for that is you have to take a bus or find your own transportation and go down to Chickamauga. And it just sounded kind of stressful for me with the kids. I may have done it if we didn't have the kids, but it just sounded like a lot. And I knew that we were only gonna see him for a very split second because they go by so fast on their bikes that it was gonna, maybe I could get a video or a picture, but that was pretty much it. He may not even hear us. So instead, what we did is there's a little playground right here and I let the kids play on the playground for a little while, and then we walked back up. So this is where all the tents are set up. We just walked right up Chestnut Street and we stayed at the Holiday Inn. And it was just a short little walk up here. And I highly, highly recommend it. We had a great time there. So the kids and I walked back there and I let them play in the pool for a little while, and that was amazing for them. That was exactly what they needed. There was another wife with her kids there whose husband was also doing Ironman Chattanooga, and so the kids played and she and I just talked. We really bonded, talking about how do we support our husbands through training, how do we make sure that we still take care of us and get to do the things that we want to do. It was just awesome. So the support between wives was awesome. Just people who were there cheering on their athletes in general. But I highly recommend that hotel. It was great for us. The pool was awesome. So we swam for a little while, we ate lunch, and then about that time, it was time to start heading back down. So we walked back down Chestnut Street, And again, at this time, this area we could walk through because nobody else was coming up out of the water. So we walked over here and we went to the same spot where we saw him mount the bike, right over here, just past this bridge, this underpass. And that's where we saw Caleb dismount off of the bike. And then from there, when he went to, so they have bike, I forget what they're called, but they're able to just like drop their bike and go. They have people who grab their bike for them. So he did that. I knew it was going to be quick because he was good with transition. So we just jogged up this way a little bit because after they go through transition, they'll come out here and down this long chute. So we stood right over here on this side of the road. They'll come down this long chute and then down, and they run along the river. So we got to see him get off the bike, and then we came down here and we were able to see him start out on the run and give high fives, and it wasn't really crowded, so we were able to kind of just have like him and us for a moment right there. Okay, then after that, this is where we wanted to see him, and I knew we were gonna see him a lot more on the run than any of the other portions. So we came back up here, this riverfront parkway, and then again, back up. We're gonna go straight back through, past the aquarium, up this East First Street, past the Walnut Street Bridge. There's another pedestrian bridge right here. And then you'll walk along this big art museum and through here, and then down 2nd Street, East 2nd Street, you'll go past this little sculpture garden area that the kids liked. And then there's another pedestrian bridge right here, and this is the Tennessee Riverwalk. And so you can come right here. And this was our first official like run spectating spot. This is at the top of Battery Place. So it's right around mile 8, I believe. It's a nice shaded residential area here. And depending on your athlete's pace, you should have some time. I was a little panicky, so I kind of had us rush, and then we just stood there for a little while. So we stood there, and this is the top of a hill. Battery Place is a hill, and from what I've heard, it's just a really tough hill. Not so much on the first loop, but the run course they do twice. And so the second time especially, it was just tough. So, but this was a really nice spot. Like I mentioned, it was shaded. There were a lot of other families there. So we stood there and were able to see him. I will say that the app, the Ironman tracking app, is not always accurate. And so we were following, and it said that he was already supposed to be at like mile 10. And I knew we were at mile 8 and hadn't seen him yet. And it's because the app uses like the tracking times, and then based off of the pace, it gives like a projected estimation of where they would be. So we're standing here at mile 8, and I had people texting me, the app says he's at mile 10 or 11. Have you seen him? I was like, no, I haven't seen him, and I know he hasn't come past here yet. The app is just not accurate. So just keep that in mind as you're tracking. A couple other people as I was talking with, we realized the same thing. What I did find to be a lot more helpful was I started recognizing faces, because we went to like 4 different spots on the run course. So I started recognizing faces and knew, oh, this person's like just a couple minutes before Caleb, so he's gonna be coming soon. So that was a lot more helpful than the app. So just keep that in mind as you're tracking. Don't panic if the app says that your athlete is at one spot and you haven't seen him yet. It's very likely that it is wrong. So Battery Place, great viewing spot. After that, we went back the same way we came. So back up this river walk, across this little bridge, back by the sculpture garden, around here, past the art museum, and came here to the end of Walnut Street Bridge. This is right around the halfway point. So as they come across this bridge and come down here, this is where they get their special needs bag, and this is the halfway point. This was a really fun spot to spectate. Like I said, it was the halfway point, and there's a lot of people there just cheering, and it was a fun spot to be at. And like I mentioned, it was not that far of a walk. So after we saw him there just past the Walnut Street Bridge, we went back again to same spot as before, down the exact same way to the top of Battery Place again. And this is where Caleb told me afterwards that like he really needed us here. This was right around like mile 21 or just before 21. Tough hill. He said it was probably the hardest part of the whole race for him. And so I was really glad that we were there to cheer him on at Battery Place that second loop. So after that, we went back again, the same little stretch. We got real familiar with it here. And this time, instead of staying here at the Walnut Street Bridge, we went ahead and went on down to the finish, because after they crossed this the second time, they're running straight to the finish, and we did not want to miss that. So we went back down here, and we actually went and cut through here, and there's like this little water area that kids can play in. And so some kids were playing here in the grass, kids were splashing in this little water area. And so I knew we had a little bit of time. And so I kind of just let the kids have a little bit of downtime here while we waited. And then the finish line, the finishing chute is set up here, and it is quite crowded. However, if you know that your athlete is coming, you'll see on like the app, it'll say there's a, timing mat chip not that far away, so you kind of have a heads up. And so the people around me, when I said to the kids, like, Daddy's coming, he's almost here, the people around me were very kind and moved out of the way so that I could get in and get a good spot where I could get pictures and videos. So everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants to see their athlete, and they'll move out of the way, especially if you say like, hey, my person's about to come, can I cut in? Because it was quite crowded. I will also add, there is a first time finisher bell, and Caleb did not realize that, and that's something that he's so bummed about, is that he did not know there was a first time finisher bell. So tell your athlete, last year it was over on the right side as they were coming through. It's a very long chute, but the bell was like quite a ways before the actual finish line, so he didn't even notice it. So mention that to your athlete if it's their first time, to ring that bell. Also, don't let your kids cross through the finish line. Somebody asked me that. They were like, oh, are you gonna let your kids run through the finish line? And I think way back in the day, Ironman let you do that, but they do not now, and they will get disqualified. So do not let your kids. It is like an amazing thing to have your kids there and be able to watch your spouse do this incredible accomplishment. But just save the hugs and all that for after they cross the finish line. Don't let them cut in and finish with that. So it is a lot and it is a long day, but just know that you being there means so much to your athlete. And if you are the athlete, don't forget to show your appreciation for the people who are there cheering you on, especially if they're taking care of your kids, because it is a very long day for the people who are spectating, cheering, and taking care of the kids as well. So a couple of kid tips. Number one, highly recommend, if your kids are out of the stroller age, mine were 4 and 6, I didn't want to push a stroller around. We brought their scooters, and that was amazing. They were able to get around quickly, and it saved their legs from a lot of walking/running. So they brought their scooters, and that was amazing. Also, bring a backpack, have water bottles, snacks, candy, things that you need to use for bribery. Also, I recommend bringing like bells and clappers and signs if you can. My kids really enjoyed that. That helped to kind of break up the monotony, as they enjoyed ringing the bells or the clappers, or they had some signs. We had some interactive signs, and that was really fun. The athletes really enjoyed tapping the signs, and that kind of just helped the kids feel like they were doing more than just standing on the sidelines all day. So I definitely recommend having things for them to do other than just sit there and wait for that split second when you're going to see your person. Also, I highly recommend staying downtown. Like I mentioned, Holiday Inn was great for us, but if you can stay downtown, then that will really help you if you need to go back to the room to get things, you're not having to get into the car and drive far away. Also, other things to do throughout the weekend, there is obviously the aquarium. We did not go to the aquarium, just we kind of ran out of time. But I know that if you do the Iron Kids Fun Run, so we did have our kids do the Iron Kids Fun Run on the race bib, there's a code for, I think it was like $5 off their admission into the aquarium. Instead, what we did is we chose to go to the Children's Museum, which is just right up the road. And that was a lot of fun. We did that actually on Saturday. And that was a great thing to do on Saturday because it gave Caleb some time to like get all his final things done. I think he actually went and drove the bike course and just did like some shakeout stuff and just kind of had some quiet time to get everything ready to go. And we really enjoyed the museum. It was really cool. So if you have found this video helpful, and I really hope that you have, because that's like my favorite thing to do. I love making these kinds of videos. I love logistics, and I really just love sharing with other people to hopefully help them. So if you have found this video helpful, if you could give it a like, that would mean so much. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, do that if you want to stay up to date with more content. Caleb's gonna be putting one out soon that is about tips for actually doing Ironman Chattanooga, since he did it last year. Just things that he learned and things that will hopefully be helpful for anyone who is participating. Yeah, so comment below, and I love hearing from you guys. So comment below, let us know if you are planning on coming to Ironman Chattanooga. If you're going to be a spectator, who are you there to cheer on? And if you are actually participating, what number Ironman is this for you? I would love to hear from you. Feel free to ask any questions. If you have any questions about spectating or completing Ironman Chattanooga, we would love to hear from you. As always, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.